messing it up for the podcast.
I don't care at this point. We're just here to have fun.
You gotta turn your mic up, bro. No one can hear
am I
you.
quiet? Well, this is the and it helps if I turn down the volume while I do the intro. This is the 4th and 1 podcast. My name is Simeon. We're live from Lancaster Lidditz and Williamstown, Pennsylvania. Micaiah is back from being just a little bit tipsy. Everybody in the club.
Back and sober.
Well, maybe not. It was his day off, and he has off
I'm gonna be sober. I'm gonna be sober for a long time. I don't want to see another drop of alcohol for Robert, at least 3 weeks.
Did you hear they gave him a handle of everything?
Yeah. They knew he was a Pennsylvania boy.
Well, I was thinking okay, it's the DR. They don't have weed legal, so they make up for it by giving you all of the alcohol.
Copious amounts of alcohol.
We all know why we go to all inclusives. It's not for the scenery, that's for sure. It's for the watered down liquor
and the sunshine. I mean, it was 80 degrees there. Yeah. It's for some of that marijuana. Robert knows what that do. That stuff will mess you up. It's rum, red wine, topped off with in spices, rum, red wine, and tequila.
Oh, so it's like it's like a DR Long Island.
Essentially, but it's scrumptious, and you can only take it a shot at a time. You don't sip on that. Yeah. You're not having a whole 12 ounces of it, 16 ounces, whatever is in it. Right. Okay. You know what? Because there's no structure for this podcast, so let's just jump right into this. Yeah. Okay. Raise your hand if everyone's in agreement that the December transfer portal window is dumb. Just real quick. Great. So can we not talk about it? Because this is what I've just been hearing about. And we, as a podcast, I feel like have been on this thing for now 2 years. And now it's the rest of the world is catching up.
Shout out Daryl.
Simeon, I must know how you feel now, because you've been talking that college football was going to turn into what it's turned into 4 years ago.
No one's surprised. Well, okay. None of our listeners that have been listening to us since 2020 should be surprised. I don't think so. I mean, even our dad, I'm saying, texted us last night and was like, did you see James Franklin was all up in a tizzy? And I'm like, well, yeah, because his backup that he worked so hard to recruit, Bo Prebula, how do you pronounce his last name, Robert? Prebula from Central York, shout out PA, decided to up and transfer.
No one shouts out Pennsylvania.
I do, because I live here, bitch. Sorry, Mom.
Shout out Pennsylvania.
Shout out Pennsylvania. Specifically York County, I guess. Yeah, because he up and transferred because Drew Aller came back and he wants to start a game and he's a 4-star.
And he always dreamed about he always dreamed about playing at Penn State. He wanted to stay at Penn State, but because Bo announced he was coming back, Drew Aller announced he was coming back,
shocks me.
So Bo announced he was transferring before Aller came out. So yeah. I'm assuming the conversation happened.
I would have to assume
hey, I'm probably coming back. But I think that's bad for Penn State. Drew Aller coming back is probably one of the worst things for Penn State.
Yo, hot take there.
Not really. They literally have a true as can be true green freshman, never seen the field at Penn State, hasn't played any snaps in the entire time he's been there. You have no backup now, so you only have this quarterback. So God forbid if anything happens to Drew Aller either during the playoff game or all of next year. You're back to how...
Is he not allowed? Is Bo not allowed to play in the playoff game?
So you can be on the team and be in the portal, but once you commit to another team, you have to leave the team that you're on.
Okay,
right?
So in theory, he could wait until the playoffs are over.
So Bo is a sophomore. That's the other thing I wanted to know. Bo is a sophomore, so he will be a junior and then senior. So I can see why he wants to leave.
Right.
The other thing that I saw today was that he is the team's third leading rusher, because he does come in and he does play a decent amount. Like, and not a decent amount, but he does play from time to time. Like in the Big Ten championship game, he had 3 carries. Maryland, he had 6 rushes. Purdue, he had 5 rushes. So he does come in and is a part of the offense. It's a very much Cade McNamara and JJ McCarthy. I know all of our fans are tired of us just naming Michigan people, but that's all we know. But it's a very Chris Leak and Tim Tebow situation as well.
There's a nice one. Touch your microphone down just a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry.
Be better.
Dude's been gone for a week, doesn't know how to do his podcast anymore.
I literally have it set where it was set before I left. I leave and come back, and it's like
Duke's
so
gonna
loud.
touch that microphone when you're gone. He
Yeah,
messes with you.
dude goes on vacation, comes back, and becomes a toucher. What do you want from me? You know?
No. Duke, D-U-K-E.
Well, dude and Duke. You know, he's over there sleeping somewhere.
Potato. We'll talk about it after, because we're gonna have to do these things as time progresses. Like, it's the same thing with coaching, right? We know that Minnesota's defensive coordinator is going from Minnesota to USC. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Minnesota's gotten a lot in from the transfer portal. I just so happened to look that up today. I don't know why I found on that rabbit hole, but that's just a fun fact
Shout
for
out
y'all.
to PJ Fleck for adjusting. He was one of the guys that I was assuming was not going to adjust to the transfer portal. And if you're telling me he got in a lot, Robert, I'm assuming you're on 24/7, unlike me, and actually know this. That's huge.
Dave
9.
Dave Clawson stepped down from being Wake Forest's head coach, basically citing, from what I read from Pete Thamel, he's just not built for this new age of college football. And I'm really wondering if we're going to see more of maybe pro football coaches coming in, because college football now is pro football. So will we see more Bill Belichick obviously not Bill Belichick. Did you guys talk about that last week?
Well, we touched on it.
Who knows?
We didn't like super get into it.
We had fun.
Unlike Bill Belichick.
Oh, you did have fun? Well,
we had fun.
What kind of fun did you guys have?
We had fun.
Okay.
That's it.
All right.
Fun.
We had I'm dating a grad student at UNC fun.
Fun.
Come on.
We had fun.
For the record, Ole Miss is on 24/7's on the top of their ranking. Colorado is numero 8. What is Michigan State? 24 commits.
Does Rob have any BBPs? Bob's bitch points? Does he's got anything he wants to bitch
where
about?
do you start, dog?
Wherever you want to.
Yeah, I know. Now, my biggest bitch point, which I think is something that kind of people are really starting to look at now, is the playoff format.
Okay.
I don't.
Why? Because I think it's good.
No, like, the 12-team format is fine.
Okay.
How do we go and say your 8-9 winner of that plays your 1?
Oh,
that's where I have the issue, because I'm like, any other time you have a tournament, you're 5-12, they play each other, makes total sense. The winner of that should go and play your 1, right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Maybe they're hoping it's going to be more competitive. Like, they want it to be more competitive, but because a 12, if Clemson somehow upsets Texas, unlikely. Clemson goes and plays Arizona State. Oh, that's all of a game all of a sudden. Like, those two teams are pretty evenly matched.
The other thing people are having issue with is the fact that they rank them, right? They rank them 1 through 12, but then they seed them different. So people are also saying that's fine to fix what Rob is talking about. That's fine if you want to rank them 1 through 12, and it's fine if you want to have the top 5 highest conference champions get in. However, where they fall in the ranking is how they should be seeded. So, for example, Oregon would be 1, Georgia would be 2, Texas or whoever is 3 now would be 3, and 4 would be
Boise.
Texas.
Shout out Boise.
Right? Like it wouldn't be Boise and who's the 4th seed right now? Arizona State.
I see what you're saying.
Right?
Okay.
So it would literally if it was right, like if it was Oregon, Ohio State was 2, fine, then the Big 10 teams get 2 first-round byes. Right? Like that's fine. And then Georgia and Texas, if that was 3 and 4, fine. Then those are the teams that get it because they were ranked 1 through 4 all year or whatever. Like, and that's how you fix that situation, Rob, of the 8-9 has to then go play the 1, because right now it does disadvantage the 1 seed, and the 5 seed technically has the quote unquote easier path because they get the 12 and then they get the 4, and then they would end up getting the 1 in the semifinal should it work out that way.
No. Okay. You're not going to say anything?
Well, no. I mean, he just explained the point. I mean, there's nothing like I can't be like, no, you're wrong.
Like you can also be like, yeah, that makes sense, or you know, like sounds good.
There's like 100. Well, Simeon, I didn't hear you say a word.
Well, that's because I'm looking up Boise State University's president. Because I want to know how proud he is of his guys for being third
I'm
in
sure
the country.
He is ecstatic.
I'm pretty sure that last week, I didn't listen to the podcast, but was it just an hour and a half of just dead air with like 2 words said between you two? Because this is what I'm getting.
We had a lot of fun. Robert was 100% correct.
Hey, we had fun. We had fun.
You know who claims they have fun? People who didn't actually have fun.
No, actually, people who claim they had fun are usually the ones who said, yeah, I had fun. The people who are not having fun are the ones going, I mean, it was all right.
Yeah. 100%. Go.
Rob,
listen,
you're all right.
Listen, we're not trying to get down, okay? I don't want you stooping down as low as Carrie did and blowing out her ACL, okay? Or her meniscus, MCL, whatever,
actually,
ACL, whatever it is. Either way.
Did Carrie also blow her meniscus?
Yeah, we were dancing to Low by Flo Rida in a silent disco, and, you know, shawty got low, 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 and you dropped that thing.
Oh you didn't tell me it was a silent disco.
Yeah, it was a silent disco, for sure.
Oh, that's even funnier.
Right?
Because now, if you're just an innocent bystander, it's totally silent.
Yeah.
And then you just see that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and then all right. He's just and Simeon's just gone.
Hey, have a good one, buddy.
Hey, we'll be seeing you. Yeah, it was at a silent disco. So yeah, we went for a good time. We came back with a potentially torn meniscus. So
listen,
nice.
Your wife, my wife are now in the same boat. What can we say? We're gonna have 2 ACL repairs or meniscus whatever repairs.
Meniscectomies is how they call it. USC's in trouble. Have you guys been paying attention to what USC's been doing in the portal?
I look like I pay attention to any West Coast team?
It's a rhetorical question.
I mean, they haven't been doing anything in the portal.
Except losing people, including their number 1 receiver and his brother, who started at safety and played all 12 games. They're going to enter the portal together and go somewhere together. Lincoln Riley has no depth along his offensive or defensive line. He is not the quarterback whisperer that we all once thought he was. The collective at USC.
I never said he was a quarterback whisperer.
Dude.
That was you two. I said he's not as good as a coach as what we think he is.
Okay. I never said he was a good coach. I said he was a good quarterback coach. And y'all can go suck it.
Well, you guys can't. Okay. You can't deny that he wasn't a good quarterback coach, considering the run of talent he had at Oklahoma.
You can't. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing. Even into his first year at USC. Now, granted, he was a transfer, but first of all, they're 19th and 24/7, so we can't say they're completely. We can't write them off completely.
Well, you can write them off when their collective only has $18 million.
Which is weird.
that's, I think, more what it is. I think I think two things happened. One, people adapted to his style of offense because everybody adopted his style of offense before they adopted Jim Harbaugh's style of offense this year. And then two, it's in freaking California, and no one wants to live there, and no one wants to spend money in California anymore. That's why everybody left. So why would the education system and the collective be the same? The only famous people that might give money to the collective is Will Ferrell and Snoop Dogg, and that's it.
What I don't understand either about, because all of these Pac-12 teams, they immediately came into the Big Ten, and they all changed their style of offense, right? They all changed into a Big Ten style of offense, except one team, and that would be Oregon. And I don't really understand it. If you want to be an air raid, up-tempo, fast-paced system, then just be an up-tempo, air raid, fast-paced system. Bring a little variety to the Big Ten. It's like when Ohio State played Michigan. They literally, instead of using their wideouts and their passing game and those two running backs, they decided to try to be like Michigan and beat their head against a brick wall. And guess what? Michigan was built for that and shut them down. So I don't really understand why USC decided to be big in a football along the line of scrimmage. Like, yeah, I understand. You got to get more beefy to compete with beefier, but like, still try to be fast. And they just weren't fast or big. Oregon at least is fast. Come on. Oregon at least is fast, but I mean, Washington kind of did the same thing. Now, Washington, different circumstance, whole change of coordinator. But Rob, like, do you have any insight? You played football. I did not. Do you have any insight why these teams outside of Oregon are trying to just conform instead of stand out in the Big Ten?
Well, I would say part of it is I think when you come to the Big Ten, you know the Big Ten plays one type of football and one type of football only, and that's like your hard-nosed smash mouth, except for Ohio State, who plays essentially SEC football, which is why they've been so successful in the Big Ten, and why Michigan's 1 year was a fluke, if we're being honest, in that whole scenario, because Michigan didn't play SEC football by any means. They just played Big Ten football and somehow just kind of went on the run they did.
Well, their defense was an SEC defense.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and Washington
I don't know,
played pro style.
Oregon said, we're not changing what we're changing. We're just going to do what we do best because it's a winning formula. And why change that? Where I think USC hasn't been able to find their identity even when they had Caleb Williams, which is something that we've said before, that even when USC had Caleb Williams, they could score all the time, but they couldn't figure out how to stop anybody. And now they're like, well, in the Big Ten, defense is king, and you slug it out, run the ball, and they're like, let's try that. And that turns out, not made for that. Not made for that one bit. And we're finding out that Wisconsin, not an air raid team at all. You know, Wisconsin needs to go back to their roots.
Yeah.
No, okay, so I'm going to have a few hot takes here. First of all, that whole SEC football, Big Ten football thing, I think is, quite frankly, overblown. I'll be nice and say, I was going to say ridiculous, but it's definitely overblown. I think the difference was a talent gap that the transfer portal and recruiting specifically has fixed. And by talent gap is, I watched the video because that's what I do, and I hear things, and I think the SEC paid more players than the rest of one way or another. Before it was legal, the SEC paid players more than any of the other conferences. So all the players would go to the SEC. It also helped that Nick Saban was there, and all of his players got drafted. So if I'm playing Nick Saban, I'm going to get more TV time, which means I'm going to get drafted more because more people can see me. Now, with the ways the deals were restructured, that's not the case. I can go play at Michigan. I can go play in a MAC school and get seen. Now, most of the MAC guys leave, but my point is there. My hot take is I don't think that exists anymore. I don't think there's a SEC style of football. I don't think there's an SEC style player. I don't think there's a Big Ten style of player anymore. Oregon's a perfect example of that. We took an Oregon team that didn't turn over that much, Micaiah, if I'm remembering correctly. You brought in Dylan Gabriel, who was a Big 12 guy last year. You bring him in, he advances what he needs to do, and Oregon shows up to a Big 10 school, to prove your point, Robert, and goes, hold my lunch and do my laundry to them.
Yeah, but it's not the type of player, though. It's the type of coaching and scheme that they're running.
Yeah. We're in 2024, dude. I can install any offense I want at this point.
Simeon, to your point, this was the first year I watched SEC, the most SEC football that I've ever watched, and it wasn't the typical SEC football that I'm used to offensively. Georgia used to be ground and pound, balance. This year, they couldn't run the football. Texas, what it was a Big 12 school, looked the most like an SEC school. Alabama looked like more of a air raid team than anything. I mean, you even go all the way down to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt was running a UNLV New Mexico. Obviously, it's New Mexico because it's the offensive coordinator in him, but it wasn't. It wasn't, we're bigger up front and we're just going to beat you and submit you and do this. No, it was more cutesy stuff all year. Even Georgia with Carson Beck, and we'll have to see what they do in the playoff without Carson Beck. Because, update, did he tear his UCL? I would assume so.
I thought I heard he did.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Like even before that, like Carson Beck, like they were doing a lot of jet sweeps and touch passes and little screens and stuff because they couldn't move the ball running wise consistently. So I'm going to have to agree with Simeon more than I have Robert that there is a style of SEC football. I'm not sure that exists anymore. And that kind of goes back to my point of why are you trying to conform if you're USC? Why are you trying to conform to the Big Ten when that's just not going to work for you? Like, go be different because different might actually work.
I think my point is I don't think it ever was a thing. Like it was.
Oh,
okay,
it definitely
maybe in
was.
1960
no,
and 1980.
It was.
Because listen,
I'm sorry.
you can
beat
still
Alabama in the 2014 national championship?
Ohio State. But they were playing SEC football.
Yeah.
Ohio State was playing
Ohio
SEC
State was
football.
the first Big Ten team to not just run up the middle. When you look at Michigan struggled so bad this year. Why did they struggle so bad this year? Because Michigan is built for Big Ten games. They are built for running the ball up the middle and somewhat off tackle and utilizing the tight end. Now, you look at Georgia, you look at Alabama, more your SEC schools, a lot of that is outside runs, jet sweeps, taking the roof off by going deep. Now, granted, you obviously have better players than what Michigan has, but it's also scheme fit too because that's just what they're built for doing. There's not many SEC schools that use a fullback. Michigan's using a fullback almost every damn play.
Yeah. I mean, again, Georgia previous to this, when Georgia had that 3 year of dominance, right at the same time Michigan did, Georgia was using a fullback from time to time. But now they're not because they can't run consistently. But Simeon, the SEC brand of football and Big Ten brand of football was a thing from 2014 or from 2015 until Michigan won the national championship. There were different styles of football. The Big 12, the Pac-12 was more.
No, there were different styles of players. There was different culture because Texas has a football stadium that seats 60,000.
No, so you're telling me that if you turn on a Pac-12 game,
I don't stay up that late.
Okay. So
true.
That's a fair point. But if I turned on a Pac-12 game, yes, I knew what type of offense I was going to see. If I was watching a Big 12 game, I knew that I was going to see a different style of offense. Big 10, I knew was going to be a snooze fest. And SEC, I knew it was going to be most pro-like football I was going to see.
I don't want to give you the point. I'm going to argue the point here.
Okay.
technically what you said was correct.
Right.
But I think that more had to do with the regionality of the situation, where if I'm an offensive coordinator at Michigan, and I have a good year, I'm going to have a head coaching job over at Indiana or over at Purdue, where I'm less likely to have a coaching job at Arizona State or at Vanderbilt. What we're seeing now is guys jump cross country. New Mexico State, Vanderbilt is a great example of that. Chip Lindsey coming up from North Carolina after being in the South for all these years. Kenny Dillingham bouncing around. Just three of the names that I have off the top of my head. I don't think we have the regionality we do anymore.
No, I think you are correct. You are correct.
With the regionality losing itself, I know we don't have a regionality anymore. And I think with the fact that we can all pay players now, I'm now on board, even though I have no proof that the SEC was definitely playing players and we weren't.
Oh, just look it up on YouTube. You'll find videos.
I'm sure. And I wouldn't say we weren't. We were paying them less. I can't say that it was SEC style. I can just say, I saw everybody and their mother run inside zones or I formation under center this year. Way more. Even in the NFL, they started actually going back to 1990s football, where I was turning around and handing the ball off. All because Michigan won a national championship, turning around and handing the ball off to Blake Corn.
I am the point you made about how it's very not regionality. I agree with you, Robert.
That's not my point. I can't take credit for that.
Whoever you stole it from, it's a great point. But Robert, would you have, when we were screaming, fire the offensive coordinator, fire Kirk Campbell's not it, fire Kirk Campbell, would you have imagined that Chip Lindsey, a guy with air raid background, would ever come in and be the OC for us?
No, because that's not Michigan football. Because that scheme has never been Michigan football. That has always been.
I see your point.
You know what I'm saying?
There's a cultural aspect,
right? So now we're looking. Yeah. Are we going to kind of transition by how we went and got Bryce Underwood? Bryce Underwood, they have to let him throw the ball.
Obviously,
how I said before, how much do you run him? And I said you give him the JJ treatment. If he's open, throw the ball. If you run whatever. Is this where Michigan starts transitioning like Ohio State did? Because Ohio State used to be kind of where Michigan is now, where when they had Maurice Claret, Terrell Pryor, it was a lot of run and gun. Now, does Michigan start taking that step to, hey, let's start throwing the ball a little bit more? We're still going to run. Benny Hall's going to get his touches. Whoever else comes in going to get their touches. But are we going to start putting the ball in the air? Are we going to start pushing it down the field?
Do you want to see that put your fan hat on? Is that what you want to see as a fan?
Yes.
Because that's what I want to see. I am kind of tired of these 3rd and 7s every single drive.
Because it was great. It's great when you got to watch Loveland. Big tight ends, Jake Butt, stuff like that. But now, which is fine, but we got to be able to throw the ball farther than 20 yards down the field. When JJ would throw a deep ball, he might overthrow him by 15 yards, but it was oh my God, we threw it deep.
Yeah.
Cornelius Johnson dropped 15 45-yard passes, but you still had, that's what made Michigan's running game so good, was because the safeties had to play farther back. The linebackers had to play more than 5 yards off the ball because we might run a crossing pattern and they have to drop into coverage. Now, Christ, they had 10 guys in the box. It makes Michigan a better team when we can at least throw the ball.
It allows the offensive line to dictate the game better. I feel like guys like Dan Campbell, like Nick Sirianni, and whoever his offensive coordinator is, like Jim Harbaugh. The reason I bring up the fact that I've seen NFL is most of the games I watch are Eagles. And the Eagles has probably one of the best, and the Lions, for that matter, have probably one of the best offensive lines in the game. And when you use your offensive linemen like the athletes that they are, where you say, "Here's your goal, go get me this goal."
Yeah,
that's what the offensive line was doing last year. They were getting to the second level, they were moving blocks, and they were getting low on plays that needed to get low on. To use the Eagles analogy, these are running teams. But if you don't throw the ball, Robert, to your point, I was passing that off to you.
Oh yeah, no. When the Eagles signed Saquon, it was a no-brainer that Saquon was going to be, all pro this year, if not, MVP candidate, because they had the best offensive line. You have the best offensive line, move people around, move heaven and earth, and then you have the receivers you do. Yeah, the guy's going to go. He's not going to get touched for 5 yards. Of course. Like, that's how football works.
And now all of your sudden you're running the ball, and then all of a sudden you can throw Devontae. Oh my god!
There you go.
I just did it again, Micaiah. I haven't done that in years.
That guy is going to retire and have kids, and that kid is going to grow up and be in the NFL, and you're going to be like, yeah, so Davion Smith again.
Devontae. And Simeon, what's so funny is Alabama actually has a player this year also named Devontae Smith again. Yeah.
Devontae Smith?
Yeah, it's Devontae Smith. Yeah.
Who am I thinking? There's a Davion out there.
So I'm sure that there's a Davion.
He's an Ohio State guy. I'm sure.
That was Michigan.
I think that coaches are also, coordinators especially, are using the transfer portal to their advantage, just to kind of close out this whole regionality thing that we kind of divulged into. And then I do want to get into previewing the playoff games that are this week. Coordinators used to have to be like, all right, well, I run the air raid, so I need players to run the air raid. So let me go to the Pac-12, to the Big 12, because they have the style of players that I want. Now it's, hey, I run a air raid pro style system. What you doing, Rob? That's my rice maker upstairs. I think that you're hearing.
I'm like,
yeah.
Like trying to
I assumed it was an air fryer, to be honest with you.
It's the rice maker upstairs. Now you can have a Chip Lindsey that goes from North Carolina to Michigan, and he can go and say, Josh Gaddis, I will come and I will mesh our schemes together, but I need a 2 power backs. I need a physical wide receiver. I need one deep threat. I need this kind of offensive line. And because of the transfer portal, you can go out and get those types of guys and flip over offenses and styles of offenses immediately.
Well, also, coaches, I feel like, have more evolved to meet instead of vice versa, because their players can necessarily leave. That's just for your guys' amusement later.
Oh, I was going to be like, you want me to watch this now?
No, Michael McKelvey is MACKLEVI is the guy who put me on to regionality, losing regionality within college football and the need for it, to be quite honest with you. Thank you. And I thought you guys would find the video interesting. But also offense coordinators, because of the and coordinators, because of the change, have to change up how they're going to install what offenses, what defenses, in order to get things done the way that they need to, and have players stick around and do that sort of stuff. Yeah.
The transition meant like start talking about.
I was trying to get to the end of my point succinctly so that I could transition us into.
Oh, you already hit your point, my dude.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's on me. I thought I needed to
You
wrap
were
that
good.
up.
No, you did not need to bow tie anything, my dude.
Oh, that's on me. We got some good football going on. Which
we do.
Is not on me.
Florida Tulane, Friday, 3:30.
All right, let's talk about the games that matter.
Yeah, I was going to say, Tulane's quarterback is transferring, so that game's not going to matter. That's a Florida win, especially if DJ Lagway or whatever his name is.
Nope, you hit that. You got that one down.
I got that name right? All right,
you got
good
that
for
name
me.
down. All right.
All right, let's start from top to the bottom. Actually, no. Bottom to the top, because I don't know about Notre Dame. And I want your guys' thoughts, because to me, they had a soft schedule. I mean, I know Indiana did. But to me, Indiana I understand Indiana's offense, but they had a soft schedule. They got, obviously, upset by Northern Illinois. They beat Texas A&M at the beginning of the season, and then they just kind of went on a quiet, I'm going to call it a quiet tear, but they had wins against powerhouses like, Miami of Ohio and Georgia Tech and a really crappy Florida State and a not so bright Virginia team. So when your positives that are on your resume are at the time ranked 20th Texas A&M team, they did a good job. At the time, 15th ranked Louisville, who also finished like 6-6. Navy team, who fell off at the end.
Beat
and
Army,
an Army
though.
team, huh?
Beat Army, though.
Beat Army, though. Great W by Navy.
Not even just beat. They
they beat
Army.
They handled that.
Beat Army.
they put a beat on them.
Army was handling business up until the Army Navy game, and then Navy decided
Totally
to show
different
up.
game.
Totally different than the rest of it. Great rivalry. I understand why that's a rivalry. And then at the time, ranked number 19 Army. All the other big games that they were supposed to have through at the end of the year weren't big games. So I'm wondering, what Notre Dame team are we going to get? It's a big situation. They are hosting this game, which helps them. Either one of you can answer my question.
So I, Rob, you made this point beginning of November, and I have stolen it, and so this is now my point. Notre Dame is one of two teams in this college football playoff that knows exactly who they are today. It is them, and it is Oregon, and that's it. Not saying the other teams can't win the national championship. Not saying that Notre Dame will even beat Indiana on Friday night, 8 p.m., ABC, ESPN. Simeon there. I plugged the networks for you. But Notre Dame knows that they want to run the ball with Love. Jeremiah Love, that's his first name.
Oh,
Riley
that's
Leonard.
a weird adjective to use.
Yeah, and have a very.
They really want to make sweet, tender love.
And have a very
Indiana's
balanced
line.
offense.
Really pound the ball in there.
It's all love and war, dog.
Really break through and come all over the secondary.
Okay. All right. They're very balanced offense.
Impregnate the bosom of
Oh
Indiana.
my gosh. Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay. 196 passing, 224 rushing. So they're they're fourth in the nation in points for, and then their defense is very good. They're third in points allowed with 13.5. So they know who they are, and I like teams this time of year that know who they are. Going back to your Detroit Lions, Philadelphia Eagles thing with the offensive line, they both know what they want to do. They want to run the ball and have the offensive line dominate the line of scrimmage. Robert, are you seeing anything different that I'm missing?
I'm not worried about Notre Dame. I'm worried about Indiana because, you can sit here and you can talk about Notre Dame's schedule and them losing at Northern Illinois and stuff like that. Indiana doesn't have anything to hang their hat on. Okay, they beat Michigan, but barely. And they were home. And when Indiana played a team that had any sort of movable offense,
muscle,
they pretty much they got embarrassed.
They got out-muscled, literally.
It's one of those deals where is Notre Dame going to treat them like they did Army and Navy, because Indiana wants to run the ball. Notre Dame can very well stop the run. And can they, if Indiana can stay close, they have a shot. But if they go down 14 early, Indiana's not made to come from behind. Come on. But
come on.
But it's just they're not built that way. They're built to get a lead and just ride the lead. Keep going and hammer.
The best part of Notre Dame's defense is their secondary, and that is the greatest disadvantage in this game is Indiana's skill guys, right, against Notre Dame's secondary. So I'm really wondering if that is negated, just as it was in the Ohio State game. Can the offensive line dominate the front seven of Notre Dame? And I'm not thinking so. So, Simeon, I don't know how you want to do picks, but I guess my question, Rob, is the spread is 7, Notre Dame -7. Would you take that, or would you take Indiana plus the points?
I would take Notre Dame. The 7.5, yes.
So you're picking Notre Dame. I'm also picking Notre Dame to win. Anything that this 2024 college football season has taught us is that to expect the unexpected, but I am expecting Notre Dame to be a very look-alike of Ohio State, Indiana, which was Indiana might be able to, especially with all this prep time, might be able to score more and generate more on offense, but Notre Dame's going to bow up and just be like, we do this for a living. We are a storied franchise, dynasty, whatever you want to call it. We are a storied program. Our guys are just bigger and better than your guys. And Riley Leonard's better than Curtis Rourke. So, yeah.
Riley Leonard has impressed me. We'll do the picks at the end like we normally do.
Is he not better? I mean, not heads and shoulders, sure, but especially
Riley Leonard over Curtis Rourke.
Riley might have a slight advantage because I think Riley is more mobile.
Yeah, for sure.
But throwing the ball, I don't really know because it wasn't until week 6 where Riley Leonard really started throwing the ball. They went without a passing touchdown for a hot minute there for a while.
Yeah, to start the season, he really came on towards the end of the season. So I guess what version of Riley Leonard are we getting?
Yeah.
Both of these teams are also used to the weather. It's supposed to be anywhere from 25 to 32 with a chance of snow. So the first game might be a snow game. So that might be cool. It's also the most expensive ticket out of the 4 weekend at $501. That's the cheapest ticket right now. Simeon, you got to pick on Indiana, Notre Dame. We're both taking ND. I'm taking ND minus the points as well.
Oh, for doing this. This is not the highest spread. This is only 7.
Right.
Listen, they've got 2 weeks to prepare. Both teams do.
Yeah.
It's a high-powered offense against a team, again, what high-powered offense that has shown up in big games at this time. That Indiana-Ohio State game is totally different. Where was that played? Was that played in
the shoe?
It was played in the shoe. Yeah. Again, we thought that was a game after the first quarter. And then they
it was only 7-0.
Yeah,
Indiana was up 7-0.
Yeah, and
then we found out their offensive line could not stop a cold.
So my question being, Robert, perfectly good point, is what Indiana do we get? Do we get that first quarter Indiana through all 4 games? If we get the first quarter Indiana through the first quarter, then I think upset alert. But I kind of agree with ESPN analytics here that have it a 70-30 chance of Notre Dame winning.
Marcus Freeman
to win.
Marcus Freeman also got a new 6-year contract. I don't know if anyone saw that. So
he hasn't proven himself to me yet, but that's beside the point. Let's go to
he wins a couple of these games.
Yeah, I mean, he needs to do this, and then he has a Georgia team with a backup quarterback. So
yeah, I mean, he can definitely.
He has that money. Needs. He has what he needs. Also, someone who does have what he needs and is the largest spread of the weekend is Dabo Swinney down in Clemson as they take on the number 5 Texas Longhorns. This is a 12-point spread against a Clemson team who needed a missed walk-off kick, correct? Or a walk-off kick against SMU.
Walk-off ACC championship game record kick. Yes.
Yes. So I don't know. I don't mean to be rude to Clemson. I like that they fought back. To me, this was Dabo Swinney's going to get fired at the end of this year when we watch Georgia. And now I'm kind of looking like, he might still have it. We can see. We'll see. It sucks that he's in the ACC. But is this even a question to either of you that Texas is going to win this game? ESPN has them an 80% chance to win.
It's going to come off of Texas's defense.
Texas had probably the best defense in the country. My only question is the same question I've had about Texas. Robert, say it again.
Quinn.
It's Quinn
viewers, baby.
Or Queen viewers, as my voice text like to, which was awesome. Sometimes he looks like the number 1 overall pick, first round, top 5 pick. And then other times he looks like a 4th round quarterback project that'll be a backup or on the street after 2 years, 3 years. in the NFL. And I don't get it. And I don't know which one I'm going to get. I saw a report, again, it was Facebook, so whether it's legitimate or not. I saw something that said Texas is offering Quinn Ewers $4 million to come back because his draft stock has fallen and isn't where it would be. But then that puts Arch Manning in jeopardy because Arch does want to play because he's been there 2 years now. So, yes, Simeon, to answer your question, it's a little bit of a question because Clemson does have a good defense. My issue with Clemson is they don't have an offense. So if I'm going to have to pick, I'm going to pick Texas to win the game. But I don't think that they're going to cover the 12. Because I don't trust Quinn enough. And I trust Dabo to play the underdog role and get his team fired up for the underdog role very, very well.
That's fair.
It's hard to, because you said like Clemson doesn't have an offense. Man, it's hard because Klubnik threw for 3,300 yards, 33 touchdowns. Like, they're scoring. They're doing what they need to do. It's,
until they run into a team that can do something, right? Like all of their offense is against teams that can't match up trenches and on the outside with them. But you are correct.
I guess I honestly would take. I think Texas is going to win, but I would take the Clemson plus 12 and a half. Yeah. I think that's a pretty safe way to look at it because I think Texas's defense is going to be just a little too much because they have a little bit more speed, a little bit more strength. But it wouldn't surprise me if this game is really close.
Sark also, while he's yelling at his dog. What is that in her? Oh, what was that? Oh, it's a box or something.
Was it a Christmas present? Oh, that was ass crack all day long.
Look at that baby. Like that bad boy.
Sark also, with time to prep, I think Sark is the best play caller in all of college football. And I think with time to prep, that's just a little too dangerous for Clemson to hang around long enough. And Texas's defense. So, I think me and Robert are on the same page. Texas wins, but Clemson covers.
We're going to head back up north here for a second. Did either of you watch any SMU football this year?
Yes.
The ACC championship game, the field goal. I watched that.
Okay.
I watched the ACC championship game in its entirety. I also watched SMU and Louisville when they won that, and then I did catch the end of the Duke game. Yes.
Okay. So my understanding is SMU replaced their quarterback after week 3.
That is correct. Yeah, that is after the BYU loss.
Yeah, yes. And that guy's transferring, if I'm remembering, possibly.
Yeah, correct.
He basically said, "Yeah, they should have replaced me." If I'm remembering, like he didn't take full blame, but he's like, "Yeah, I want to go play," but at the same time, like I understand. So this is a team we don't necessarily know too well. Over/under's 52.5, or at least I don't. It's in Happy Valley. It's on TNT and Max now. Shout out.
Wonder who they're going to get to call these TNT games.
I'm very interesting. You're going to have to let us know.
Will do.
It's Please don't let it be Gus.
Gus Johnson?
I think he's Fox, not Turner.
That's Fox, not
Turner.
But
maybe
they're going to get
around
Charles
this time.
and
You
Shaq.
Get people all over the way. Give me Charles Barkley and Shaq.
Kevin Harlan. Listen, would you not watch a halftime show of Kenny the Jet Smith, Charles Barkley, and Shaq just talk about football like they know what they're talking about? That would be so funny.
Probably not because I don't watch the halftime show.
No, I would watch it if it was that.
If it was the Inside the
NBA,
guys.
But I do watch the Inside the NBA TNT halftime show.
My favorite is when Chuck calls Shaq Shrek, and like a PA or producer in the background laughs, and he's wearing and he like looks and is like, "Who's making fun of me?" Like he's gonna do something about it. Okay, so it's an 8.5 point spread. PSU's favored. It's in Happy Valley. It's gonna be cold. I don't know what the weather's like. It's gonna be 12. Kickoff is at 12.
There's snow up there that they've been removing all week as well, so I'm sure there'll be snow on the field somewhere.
It's going to be around 30. It's going to be around freezing, is my guess. I don't think we're going to have it today.
I think it's supposed to be in the 20s.
Okay, great.
Yeah, where it was 60.
Saturday.
Great.
It's not going to be It's not going to be Dallas, Texas weather.
Yeah, so this is the first climate game where a team is going into a new climate, and that would be SMU from Dallas, Texas, all the way up to the mountains in Pennsylvania. Shout out PA.
Thank you.
I couldn't help myself. So first of all, a couple of things that go into this. I think talent-wise and game plan stylistically, these two teams match up very well.
Yeah.
I think SMU...
The quarterback statistics are very close.
I think SMU has flown under the radar, and people really haven't watched them enough. But in this first half against Clemson, they got dominated. Second half, they were a brand new team, and they did what Clemson did to them in the first half, and they dominated on both lines of scrimmage, secondary, and Kevin Jennings used his legs and his playmaking ability to make plays inside and outside the pocket. I think, though, the loss of Bo does hurt Penn State. I think the crowd noise and the home environment does help Penn State, even though it's a noon game. However, I think Rhett Latchley is one of the best coaches in college football, and I think he fires up this team enough, and Penn State hasn't covered really all year. So I don't think that 8.5 is getting covered.
Robert, before we come over to you, Micaiah, to your point, is 27. It's going to be 27 up there game time in University Park. Shout out PA. It's also finals week, so it doesn't matter that the game's at 12 from a drinking perspective. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is how much we break down these games.
Yeah.
It's finals week. These guys are going to be done. If there's students staying to watch the game, they've been drinking since Friday night. Yeah, they're done with their finals.
Well, so when does finals end on the 20th?
It's in the 19th, dude. Classes are done the 19th.
So then, but most of the time, you take your final and you have to be out by Saturday. So I wonder how full that student section's going to be. Like, how does that work?
Most of the, I guarantee most of the student sections are people from PA, right? Parents are going to come up. They're going to get tickets. They're going to watch the games, and then they're all going to go home. To, Manheim Township.
The old bar dudes and
yeah.
Just a fun fact, and then Robert, I want to hear your opinion on this game. Just a fun fact about these. So yes, while these teams get home games, these home games are sponsored by the College Football Playoff, which I didn't know. So like, SMU is going to get their theme song and their intro music played on the big board, and as they run out. Like, this is not a Penn State home game. This is a College Football Playoff at University Park game. So both teams get equal coverage. But anyway, I digress. I just thought that was a fun fact. I learned that today. Did not know that. Robert, your thoughts on Penn State?
It's also kind of smart to do that because, it's the playoffs. Who cares? But I am interested to see Penn State and what Penn State team are we getting? Are we getting the Ohio State Penn State team who could not move the ball at all?
Oh, nope, you're still with us.
Okay, I wasn't sure because it said you're trying to reconnect. Or are we going to get the Penn State
you're with us.
Okay. Or the Penn State team that played against Oregon where it became a shootout and Penn State, they answered the bell and they ran the ball effectively, threw the ball effectively. Drew Aller looked like he was actually a quarterback. Losing Bo does hurt kind of tremendously because that takes a whole section of their offense away. And it kind of simplifies the defense for SMU, in my opinion. So I actually am going to pick SMU to win this game. I'm going to do it. I think Penn State's defense is going to get they're going to get what they normally do. It's going to be a tough-nosed defensive game. But I think is a quarterback that is mobile, which I think is another thing Penn State really hasn't faced all season, is going to kind of give them fits. They're going to try and blitz him a lot, which means he's going to get out of the pocket. And I think, I'm going SMU. I'm just going to go with them.
So
interesting.
SMU has the 28th ranked defense in points against and 5th in offense, points for. Penn State is 23rd in points for and 8th in points against. So it's literally they cancel each other out, essentially.
Yeah.
They're both very balanced, both right around a little SMU's over 200 yards passing, a little under 200 yards rushing, and then Penn State's over 200 in both categories. I think that this is a very evenly game. This 8.5 is way too high for me. And Rob, I don't know what it is, but no, everyone's like, SMU is going to struggle in the weather. SMU is going to struggle in the weather. I bet SMU doesn't struggle in the weather. I bet Rhett Lashley gets his guys fired up. And I know that this is really boring podcasting, but Robert, we've been aligned so far. We're aligned with this pick too. And I even made up my mind before you went on and made all your great points. I just think, I don't know. I like this SMU team, so I'm going to pick them.
I'm going to clip this and send it to my in-laws. They'll hate you guys.
Let's go.
Okay,
We don't like them anyway.
Warner actually put a press release out. So 11 a.m. they'll have a pregame show for so they're calling both. TNT is hosting both the Clemson Texas game as well as the Penn State SMU game.
They get 12-4.
So they're hosting the 11 a.m. With Adam. The pregame, the 1 hour pregame will be Adam Lefkoy alongside Champ Bailey, Taco Spikes, and Victor Cruz will be the pregame.
Wow, really found them from some. I didn't even know some of them were still alive, if I'm being completely honest.
Here's the interesting one. Bleacher Report will be live from inside Beaver Stadium at 10 a.m. for the Bleacher Report CFP pregame presented by AT&T, featuring, this is the interesting part, Mike Golick Sr. and Mike Golick Jr.
Hey! Wow! They're still alive, too. I didn't know that.
Shout out to Mike and Mike. They have their own podcast. Both the Suns, because they both got canned, rightfully so, by ESPN. Well, not rightfully so. They should have done their own thing, is basically what I'm trying to say. They were the interesting ones, is the point that I'm trying to get at.
I get it.
So ESPN will be calling in the booth both games on TNT. If any of you guys watched the Celebration Bowl this weekend, Mark Jones and Rodney Jones, not sure related, don't think so, will be calling the SMU Penn State game with Quint Kessernick and Tom Kesnick and Tom Luganbill on the sidelines, while Dave Pashash and Dusty Dvorchak. Listen, those polls, I'm not going to get their names right. With Taylor McGregor and Laura Rutledge on the sideline for Texas Clemson.
So that would leave Todd Blackledge and the other guy either probably doing Indiana Notre Dame, and then Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler doing Tennessee Ohio
State, the 8 o'clock game. Hey, look at that, Makai. We're pretty good in sync on this one. This game's 7.5 points. It's not the closest ranked, not the closest combined. To me, this is the most even game that we're going to watch. This is like the big game that I'm actually interested in watching in the toilet bowl in Columbus.
Is that it? That's the build-up right
normally
there?
when I'm done talking,
okay.
I set you guys up to do all the smart...
Sometimes you're not done talking. Sometimes
let me put the fireworks away for that show.
Wow. Okay, so 8-9 matchup. You would think it is the most evenly matched.
It is. You can't disagree with that.
Here's what I will say. Nico has been average at best. The scheme Josh Heupel runs plays into this whole Big Ten-ish, because Big Ten kind of scheme, the conversation that we were having, because he wants to run the football with Dylan Sampson and let his offensive line dominate. I am very interested to see, and I already know the answer to this. Ohio State will, now that they're not playing Michigan, revert back to Ohio State. They will hit Jeremiah Smith, and they will hit Cardell Tate, and they will hit Emeka Ibuka, and they will use their running backs, and Chip Kelly will get very creative, and it will be a fireworks show. But Tennessee's front seven still is very good. And the last time I clipped this and put this out about Tennessee's front seven, they went on and to lose that week, not next week, to whoever they lost to, Arkansas, I believe. So I think that they're very evenly matched. I think that this is a low-scoring game. That 46.5, I would probably lean towards the under. But I'm going to be interested to see if Ohio State can even run the ball against Tennessee's front seven, and then how quickly can Ohio State become explosive. But, Robert, I want your opinion. Who do you trust more at quarterback, Nico or Will Howard? Because they're like the same to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough because like Will really hasn't. I mean, against bad teams, yeah, Will Howard's been great, and when they play, he was great against Indiana, but it kind of seemed like it didn't really matter what happened at that game. But against Penn State, early pick six, you're not going to be able to do that in the playoffs. Against Michigan, he had 2 picks?
Yep.
Not going to be able to do that in the playoffs. I think even though Nico is just kind of average at this point, I think I kind of would go with him. But I also would, because everything rides on this game for Ohio State, in my opinion. Because right now, you're seeing Ohio State is at the lowest of their low for the season. You're coming off of that heartbreaking Michigan loss, and everything is in question. Your manhood, Ryan Day's ability to coach a game, Chip Kelly's ability to call a game. He's got in a fight on the field because Michigan planted the flag, and there's just so many things where Ohio State, they need to win more than anything, and that's a lot of pressure, especially for kids who it's a lot of pressure for like a quarterback, Will Howard, who's not playing at his greatest, going up against a defense they're going to blitz a lot and they're going to come off the edge a lot. So I just think I think Tennessee's going to have the edge in it. I think Tennessee's going to run the ball fairly well against Ohio State, and Ohio State's run game is going to kind of falter, but I think they're going to get the ball outside more passing wise. Jeremiah Smith probably going to have another, 8-7 catch game for probably 130, because that's what he does. Ibuka's probably going to have a gaggle of catches, but I don't see Ohio State and Tennessee really becoming like a big shootout kind of a game. I think at first they're going to test each other, feel each other out, but I think Tennessee essentially is going to take this one.
Weather should not play a factor. Yes, it does get colder in Columbus. The high right now is 29 on Saturday.
28 at 8 p.m.
28. However, on Saturday in Knoxville, it's supposed to be 40 and snowing. So the kids are not going to be – it's not going to be a new concept of cold weather or snow or whatever. It's just whether it's going to be brisk and windy and that piercing cold that this Northeast can get. I think scheme-wise – at this point, I trust Josh Heupel's scheme more than Chip Kelly's. And I say that because whenever I watch Tennessee, and they were on a lot in prime time this year, there were guys wide open about 4 to 5 times a game. And Nico just missed them. He would hit 2, and then he would miss the rest. And so Tennessee very easily could have averaged 40-plus points, but because Nico's inability to step up, plant his feet, and hit guys on the run, that's probably why. Now, he did kind of find it against Vanderbilt, and the week before that against the Citadel or whoever, an FCS school, whoever they played.
UTEP.
Tennessee is built to play a defensive ground and pound, run you out, use Dylan Sampson 30 times, and then play defense and beat you. I'm going to have to say Ohio State gets a win, but they don't cover this 7.5 at all. And the only reason I'm saying that Ohio State gets a win is eventually Ryan Day's got to win a big game. And eventually he's got to get this monkey off his back. And eventually he's got to rewrite a narrative. And I think that people, wrongfully so, this will feed into the narrative of Ohio State finally has a tough football team because it will be a tough football kind of game, a low 20s, 20, 24, 21, 27 kind of game. Both are well within the margin of Tennessee plus 7.5. So I would have to take Tennessee plus the points, but I am taking Ohio State as much as it pains me to win this game in Columbus.
There it is. That wasn't as smooth as I wanted it to, but, we were having fun this podcast.
Smooth as chunky peanut butter, bud.
Hey, don't knock chunky peanut butter and wash your hands, you filthy animals.